Hello everybody, here's what's coming up tonight on Now, the opioid crisis. We talk a lot about it. You guys have had a lot of questions and comments. So tonight we talk to some people actually in recovery and let them answer your questions.
We're also talking to a paramedic about what Narcan even is and how it works and how you can use it.
And the South Portland Casco Bay Bridge gets stuck a lot. Is there a fix for that? Well,
we are. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Hill.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there. We've got some serious topics and stuff that you guys have really been talking a lot about, so we're going to address it and spend some time on it today. It's addiction. We spend a lot of time talking about this topic since this program really launched back in March. Opioids, heroin, and the even more lethal carfentanil.
Yeah, it's become so common that we're almost at a point where we're kind of tuning out all the information. That is, until we hear another shocking story like the one shared this weekend by the Laconia, New Hampshire Fire Department.
Yeah, so through this Facebook post on Friday, the chief writes in part, Laconia firefighters in the last 68 days have administered 116 doses of Narcan. This is a 905% increase over the same time period from last year. Deputy Chief Sean Riley says that while the conversation seems like a broken record, we aren't talking about it enough.
We always see the bad in EMS. You know, we go and we wake these people up, and we don't know if they've ever made it to long-term recovery. All we see is when they're at their worst.
Lately, emergency crews in Laconia have seen a lot more of the bad. According to a Facebook post, firefighters in just 2 months have administered more than 100 doses of Narcan, which counteracts the effects of an overdose.
It concerns me because the more people that are actively using in a community, the more opportunity there is to recruit new users. You know, we really want to control, we want to help and control the people that are actively using now, and we want to prevent new people, namely young people, from ever trying it, not even one time.
Something the department is also doing through a firefighter turned recovery coordinator.
When we go on an overdose, he will follow up with that patient and that patient's family to see if that person is ready to, you know, enter the recovery community and, you know, find a way to treatment. We've gotten 24 people into long-term recovery.
And sometimes those patients come back to the fire department and share their success stories. That keeps these first responders moving forward in what can sometimes feel like an uphill battle.
I'm optimistic that, you know, we're all moving in the same direction. I think it's going to take a lot of time. I think the end is not close, but it's certainly in sight.
Yeah, an end in sight certainly would be welcome news, since it certainly seems as though we are talking about this every day, as we said.
Yeah, and we spoke with Steve Cotreau and Krista Fowler from the Portland Recovery Center, and Steve is a program manager there. He's been in recovery since 1990. Krista is a peer outreach worker. She's been in recovery for 26 months. Raymond asks, Narcan is just used too much. People are overdosing because they know Narcan can come and save them. I mean, is that a real thing in your opinion?
It's not a real thing from people that I've talked to that have been Narcaned. When somebody's actively using, not much is on their mind other than using. Not the consequences, not any of it.
Absolutely not. Addicts don't like to be Narcaned. They don't, it's not something that they enjoy doing. You get very sick when it happens. It completely reverses the effect of your high, and you get completely sick from withdrawal instantly. It's not something that, you know, they just carry around because if they get too messed up, they have the choice to do that.
If this hasn't touched you personally, you see someone who overdoses, you go, well, that's self-inflicted, you know, why are we helping these people? They're just going to do it again anyway. You know, I mean, clearly you have strong thoughts on that.
I understand if people are reacting to only the symptoms of active addiction. It gets tiring, I'm sure, for the first responders, for people in emergency rooms. I have the luxury of seeing the other side of it. I see thousands of kids that come in here, they're in inactive recovery, and it's completely different.
What would you say to the viewers who don't get it, who don't see that there's value in trying to save and help and rehabilitate people who have this awful problem?
I would just say to show compassion to those that, you know, are lost because they hate themselves enough. And other people hating and judging them isn't going to do anything except, you know, perpetuate the hate and the sadness and the sickness. Like, people need to know that they're worth something. They need to know that help is there and that they don't have to live like that.
Okay, so whether or not you think Narcan should be readily available, it is a life-saving drug.
Yeah, but how does it work? Here to explain that is Eric Wellman. He teaches EMS at Southern Maine Community College. Now, thank you for joining us, first of all.
Glad to be here.
So a lot of us don't know Narcan. Like, what is it? Like, what's the science behind it? How does it work?
So Narcan is a medication that's actually a reversal agent. So when you take a narcotic, what it does is it occupies a receptor site in your brain, and that causes the euphoria state that people have. If you take too much of it, what happens is it depresses your brain. It actually shuts down sections of it, and one of those sections is the respiratory center. So it stops you from breathing, and that's when people call because their loved one has overdosed or their friend has overdosed, and eventually that can lead to cardiac arrest, and that's what we've been seeing the big increases of. So what Narcan does is it actually finds that location, and it actually blocks the opiate that's inside. So it actually pushes it out of the way, and it actually reverses it immediately, and can immediately correct that action if given it in a high enough dose, and will move things right out of the way.
Sometimes you're seeing patients, though, who need more than one dose. Like, this is what, one dose right here? So how do you figure out?
So it really comes down to what the chemical is that they've taken. So they could have taken fentanyl, which is a much more potent version of heroin or of morphine in those cases. And the newest one that we've been hearing about is carfentanil, which is many times more effective at creating an overdose because it's such a high potency in such a small amount. So that's the patients that tend to require more and more Narcan for that reason, because they have so much on board and it has such a serious effect on them.
So as a parent, and I'm trying not to shock anybody with this question, but I want to know, do I need to learn how to use this stuff just in case, God forbid, my kid, you know, tries something for the first time and I need to know how to use this? Is that an overreaction that parents need to learn about this?
Well, I think one of the key things to remember is that your emergency medical services groups, your local ambulance service, your fire department will likely have this medication. Some police departments have this medication, so it's readily available in that sense. And as I understand now, for many people who have an addiction problem also are getting this, and they're taking it home, so they'll have it available to them there also. It is actually fairly simple to use, but it does have some effects that if it's given too fast, that it can really make a person go into immediate withdrawal, which basically obliviates the drug and can make the patient angry, can make them actually start to violently vomit, and it immediately kicks in those withdrawal symptoms, which is where we see some of the problems that patients may have with this.
So for those who have taken it home, who have gotten permission from their medical provider to have it, what advice do you give them on administering it?
I would say give it slowly, but it really comes down to, like, this is an example of one version, which is the nasal version, which would be put in their nose and would be given in small doses into their nose. But other methods of this come out that they have injectable versions that are auto-injectors, so there's no way to really give that slowly. And some systems are actually giving out injectable versions where the person actually uses a syringe and actually injects it into someone. And again, when we teach paramedics to use this medication, we teach EMTs to use this medication, we teach them to give it slowly, and we teach them to look for the respiratory change. So we actually look for breathing changes to make them breathe more. We're actually looking for that. We're not actually looking to wake them up, because a lot of people think that's what we're trying to do. What we're actually trying to do is get them to breathe more, and that's really the goal.
Eric, stick around during the commercial break and answer some of your questions as well. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you. We'll take your questions during the break. All right, so to transition from that to weather.
Yeah, it's been pretty humid, huh?
Here's Keith.
Impossible transition. Humid out there, very, very humid. That's, I think, the headline for the next couple of hours. Look at these dew points in the mid and upper 60s. I mentioned yesterday, 70s about as high as you're going to see it in Maine. So we're approaching that, and when you go outside, you will feel it. But there's been a real absence of thunderstorms out there. Some of the computer models had some strong and severe storms. I think the early showers and convection we had, particularly over southern Maine, kind of reduce some of the instability out there. So yes, a couple of pop-up showers in the mountains now, but I'll tell you what, if they haven't gotten their act together yet, it's unlikely they will do so later. The only area that might get clipped with some thunderstorms are these storms coming over from Quebec that could get into Aroostook County later tonight. But by and large, these showers are dying out there, and just a few of them will make it into Maine. Tomorrow we start with a lot of sunshine. I think tomorrow is a much nicer day in general. An isolated, very isolated shower in the afternoon over western Maine, but the vast majority of the state is dry. Guys, we'll talk about the weekend and on what I think could be the first 90+ in a while next week.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Now to a developing situation. A man is now charged with murder in the death of a Jay woman. The Major Crimes Unit is on the scene where Wendy Douglas was found dead inside her Jules Street home. Officers say her boyfriend, James Sweeney, turned himself in. He's now charged with murder. News Center's Justin Bledkowski is in Jay and will bring us more details throughout the evening.
All right, coming up after the break, we're taking your questions to the Maine Department of Transportation. Seems like the Casco Bay Bridge gets stuck a lot. So why can't you just make a U-turn and escape the traffic jam?
Plus, a teenager electrocuted when she used her phone in the bathtub. Now her family is sharing her story.
People driving in and out of Portland hit a bit of a roadblock on Monday afternoon, and that's because the Casco Bay Bridge shut down because of a technical problem. Ted Talbot of the Maine Department of Transportation says that the bridge lost power to 3 different gates. An electrician was on site and able to identify the problem within 15 minutes, but getting the traffic jam fixed was another story. Local police had to direct drivers on the bridge to back up and then turn around. Now, some of you on Facebook sent us this diagram asking why you just can't make a U-turn on the bridge when something like this happens. Mac McIntyre says, every time this happens, I think, how easy could that be? Make it happen. He drew where there are gates dividing the 2 lanes, showing that if they were removed, stuck cars could make a U-turn and escape the traffic jam. Now, it seems like a simple solution, right? Well, we took the question to the experts.
Currently on the bridge, we have a center barrier that's made of concrete that runs the whole length of the bridge, other than on the lift spans of the Casco Bay Bridge. On top of the barrier, all the way down through are street lights. There is conduit that's embedded in this barrier to operate those electrical conduit, operate those street lights on the bridge. So in order for us to do that, make some type of turn, we'd have to cut the barrier, and there's really no other place to run the conduit unless we redesigned the whole bridge and run it a whole different way, which would be very expensive. Plus, we also have gates, 2 sets of gates to stop traffic so they do not get near the lift spans. This scenario here is beyond both sets of gates, which becomes a safety issue then. We cannot have anybody near these lift spans when they're going up.
All right, turns out you can either have traffic lights or you can have U-turns, but you cannot have both. Plus, the barrier that keeps opposing lanes of traffic separate to avoid head-on crashes. Ted Talbot tells us that they're looking into possible improvements to the bridge to possibly avoid these malfunctions from even happening in the first place. Amanda?
Thanks, Lee. All right, have you ever picked up a charging cell phone while you were in the pool or brushing your teeth? That obviously is very dangerous, but a teenager died this weekend after she was electrocuted by her phone in the bathtub. 14-year-old Madison Coe of Texas was in the tub Sunday when she died. Her family says she grabbed her phone, which was plugged into a charger in a bathroom outlet, and she was electrocuted. Now her family is sharing her story, hoping this doesn't happen to anyone else.
This is such a tragedy that doesn't need to happen to anyone else. And we want something good to come out of this as awareness of not using your cell phone in the bathroom as it's plugged in and charging.
Consumer Product Safety Commission says it is investigating the incident.
All right, still to come on now. Did you get one of those messages on Facebook that warns you about Jaden Smith who wants to hack into your account? You were not the only one.
And the humidity hits hard today. Keith's full forecast next.
You may have gotten a Facebook message from a concerned friend telling you to not accept a request from Jaden K. Smith. People are sharing that same message all over the country, warning that accepting the friend request will lead to your account getting hacked. But is this true? We wanted to verify.
Our first source, Rich Brooks, is president of Flight New Media, a social media marketing and training consulting firm. He says when people share these posts, Facebook's algorithm increases the post's visibility.
It's like the equivalent of an Amber Alert, except on Facebook. Like, this is a hack, I want to protect all my friends, so of course I'm going to pass this along.
Facebook users are sending and getting a message in their inboxes that says, please tell all the contacts in your messenger not to accept Jaden K. Smith's friendship request. He is a hacker. And if one of your friends accepts, you will also be hacked.
If somebody becomes your friend on Facebook, that doesn't give them any access to your account other than seeing what you're willing to share with them.
So we can say that these claims are false. Adding someone as a friend on Facebook does not allow someone to access your account. Online sites like Snopes, Hoax Slayer, and That's Nonsense all debunked it too.
I feel bad for anybody named Jaden K. Smith on Facebook, I'll be honest, because that guy probably is seeing his friends count drop precipitously.
That's a totally different story. People are actually changing their names on Facebook to display this new infamous moniker, all in good fun.
And then all my friends started calling me, oh my God, you've been hacked, and you got all of our friends' information. And I was like, no, that was me. As soon as I changed it, I got 15 calls within 30 minutes.
Now Kirk Johnson, who lives in the other Portland, can't change his name back for 60 days, which he says is a small problem to have.
We go to work, we come home, we look at Facebook, and we get upset. Oh, look at that, more about this, more about that. You know, people are just getting tired of like fake news and all the garbage that people want to post on Facebook, so everybody's having fun with it now.
So what can you do if you get a message from someone warning you about Jaden K. Smith? You can either ignore it altogether, or if you're feeling friendly, write them a message back and let them know that this is a hoax. Facebook has a detailed help center that will guide you through security checkups and making sure your information and posts are not visible to anyone you do not want to see them. But links are different. Never click on a link that you do not trust. And if you're wary of it, you can copy the link and paste it into a search engine and see what comes up. Guys?
All right.
Good to know.
Getting it done. Hey, do you drink lattes?
I don't, but I drink coffee.
Well, it turns out a latte a day could keep the doctor away. It's not just an apple anymore. Researchers at the University of Southern California have found drinking just 1 cup of coffee a day reduced the risk of early death by 12%. And drinking 2 or 3 cups, well, that cuts the risk even more.
Here's the hitch. Decaf drinkers have the same benefits, so it's probably not caffeine that's keeping us alive, even though it may feel that way sometimes. About 62% of Americans are regular coffee drinkers, oh, by the way.
I'm in the 38% that is not. Do not drink coffee.
But you drink a lot of caffeine.
Well, I mean, don't sound
Yeah.
judgy.
Just to
Just a
clarify.
little judgy on
Something
that.
seems a little weird about that study. I have to look into it because if you're removing the main thing that makes it coffee, then what would the benefit be? Like, is it?
Let's make it a brain drop.
Is it correlation or causation?
Let's find out and make it a future brain drop.
What's the difference?
Answer it later.
This is a recurring theme.
All right, let's do some weather first. Huh? Yeah. It's not very showery, which is good for most people. It is very humid, though. The showers have been very slow to develop, as I mentioned before. Some of the early showers have kind of taken away from the instability. Now just a couple of them in the mountains, even though it's very slow to develop here. To the north of Rangeley, toward Jackman, a few showers as well. But generally speaking, if they haven't popped up at this point, we're not going to see too many of those pop up later this afternoon and evening. Dew points, though, very sticky across the entire state. Dew points lurking in the 70s down across Massachusetts, 60s here. This is as close as you're going to get. About 70, 71 is about as high as I've seen across Maine, so it is extremely humid. It will stay humid through tonight, so a good air conditioning night if you happen to have an AC unit or even a window unit would help a lot. As we look towards tomorrow, we're in better shape. It slowly dries out through Wednesday. We're generally nice. The only reason I put generally nice is there will be a chance of an afternoon shower over western Maine, but as a percentage, 85–90% of the state will be dry through the day. Not so lucky on Thursday as this warm front lifts northward. A lot of showers during the day on Thursday, Thursday night, Friday morning, and then the middle part of Friday looks good before more showers on Friday night. We're in a very active, unsettled pattern. Not a bad pattern, but there will be a lot of shower chances around. Not many tonight, though, just a few in the mountains. After that is partly cloudy. Start with a lot of sunshine tomorrow. There's your isolated risk of a shower or storm over western Maine. As we head into Thursday, there'll be a lot of cloud cover, a lot more shower activity on Thursday, and I don't think it turns out to be all that nice of a day, particularly through the middle part of the day. So as precipitation chances fall, your best chance is Thursday in through Friday and then Saturday morning. After that, we do clear out for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But kind of a hard weather story to tell because it's all over the place with shower chances. I will tell you, I see a signal for some big heat, though. Probably only a day or two next week, but it could be our first 90 plus since the middle part of June. My guess would be that's Wednesday of next week, but obviously we'll fine tune that. You'll notice that I've trended temperatures up on Sunday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday as we get closer to that warm period there. But, you know, this is one of those forecasts I sit down and say, well, what's the story? Occasional showers, the key is timing them out. I think Thursday is a showery day, but the rest of them are just kind of scattered variety.
All right.
No plant killers in there.
No, you just have to pay attention
Unless
to
you're
it.
a hay farmer.
Unless you're a hay farmer. We learned that last night.
All right, we're dropping some brain when we come back.
All right, today's brain drops is about something called a scud cloud. And how do you tell the difference between that and a tornado? We get a lot of false reports in the Northeast of tornadoes or funnel clouds. What does that look like to you, right? It's sketchy, right? It looks a little
avalanche.
A little weird.
Yeah, kind of, doesn't it?
That's a scud cloud. It's a detached cloud formation that forms on the base of thunderstorms. It's basically the outflow being pushed out of a storm and all of that air being pushed and it's condensing. Let's show you what an actual storm that, this is another one. This is a scud cloud. What does that look like to you?
An anchor.
It looks like a tornado on the ground. This is not one of those blot tests.
Like water splashing.
Yeah. I'm horrible at charades.
You can see how this would be confused for a tornado that's throwing debris around, but it's actually just a scud cloud that is hitting the ground and the base of it's hitting the ground. So when you want to look for the possibility of a funnel cloud or tornado, the number one thing, and the National Weather Service will train their Sky1 spotters with this, you have to see rotation in the cloud that would be capable of producing a tornado. So let's show you, there it is right there. That is what...
That looks like a tornado.
This is a sped up version of what's called a mesocyclone. A mesocyclone is a thunderstorm that is capable of producing a tornado. So it starts rotating, the larger base of the wall cloud rotates, then the cloud itself drops, then the tornado drops down from there. They're not all going to be this dramatic, and they're not going to be moving this quickly. But if you got to see that motion in a cloud.
We have 10 seconds, but now I'm curious. Do all these things go clockwise?
It depends on the hemisphere.
Okay, good. See, I learned something else. Bonus question. All right, News Center at 5:30 starts right now.